Liam Lawson has secured the coveted second seat at Red Bull, but the decision has sparked controversy, especially as it comes at the expense of Yuki Tsunoda, who has once again been overlooked despite having more experience and expectations of being Max Verstappen's teammate by 2025. Was Red Bull's gamble a masterstroke, or have they made a critical mistake? And with Tsunoda now eyeing a potential comeback with Aston Martin in 2026, how will this shake out for both drivers in the long run? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the latest news. Let's get on with it. After 11 impressive races, Lawson has been promoted to Red Bull's second seat for 2025, a decision that Christian Horner seems to have made with confidence. But what's truly remarkable is how quickly the tables have turned this season. Red Bull, who seemed untouchable early on, watched McLaren and Ferrari surge ahead in the Constructors' Championship after a sudden dip in performance. Faced with this unexpected setback, the team needed a reliable second driver, someone who wouldn't just play catch-up or burn through resources. Enter Lawson, the new hope for Red Bull, a fresh driver who's ready to step up and prove he's the right fit. Now the question remains, has Red Bull secured the right driver for the job, or has Tsunoda's wait for a top seat only been delayed? With his eyes now set on a potential future with Aston Martin, the drama is far from over. While the F1 world is buzzing with disappointment over Red Bull's controversial choice, let's not forget that many outlets were already championing Liam Lawson as Max Verstappen's future teammate. Despite the backlash, Christian Horner has defended the decision, offering a solid explanation for why Lawson was preferred over Yuki Tsunoda. For Tsunoda, this only adds fuel to the fire, giving him the perfect motivation to prove his worth, especially now that he's poised to join a much more competitive team in the near future. For Lawson, it's a moment to savor. The 22-year-old has only raced 11 times as a full-time driver, yet Red Bull has placed their trust in his potential, making this opportunity even more remarkable. In his own words, being announced as an Oracle Red Bull racing driver is a dream come true. This is something I've wanted and worked towards since I was 8 years old, Lawson said. It's been an incredible journey so far. I want to say a massive thank you to the whole team at Red Bull for their support. The last 6 races have been a huge preparation for this next step. I also want to thank Christian Helmet and the entire Red Bull family for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. I'm super excited to work alongside Max and learn from a world champion. I have no doubt I will absorb everything from his expertise. I can't wait to get going. With the spotlight now firmly on Lawson, Red Bull's gamble could redefine his career, or it could spark a new chapter for Tsunoda, whose future may be even brighter in the coming seasons. The story is far from over, and both drivers have everything to prove. Christian Horner, Red Bull team principal, has finally answered the burning question on everyone's mind. Why Liam Lawson and not Yuki Tsunoda? Especially when the latter has 4 years of F1 experience under his belt. Many expected Tsunoda to be the logical choice, but it seems his temperament played a key role in the decision. Red Bull's decision-making process was very delicate, but despite Tsunoda's experience and potential, it seems that Lawson's combination of race pace, mental toughness, and work ethic gave him the edge, at least for the moment. Horner explained the decision, noting how close the battle was between Lawson and Tsunoda. It was very, very tight between Liam and Yuki. Yuki is a very fast driver, with 3 or 4 seasons of experience now. He did a very good job in the tire test in Abu Dhabi, where the engineers were impressed with how he performed. But we just felt, when you look at the analytics of it, that Liam's race pace was slightly better in the races he did. His qualifying pace was very close to Yuki's, and you've got to assume that Liam's potential, having only done 11 Grands Prix, is only going to get better and stronger. He's shown real mental resilience and toughness. The engineers have enjoyed working with him throughout the running he's done this year. He's got a good work ethic as well. It's clear that Lawson's performance and promise, despite his limited experience, have convinced Red Bull to invest in him long-term. However, that doesn't mean Tsunoda's time at Red Bull is entirely over. Horner confirmed that Tsunoda will remain within the Red Bull family next year, in a reserve role, on standby should he ever be required. But as much as the door isn't completely closed on Tsunoda, the reality is that the Japanese driver has expressed his frustration. He's openly admitted that he's at a loss as to what more he can do to earn a promotion within Red Bull. especially after his strong showing in the tire test and his consistent feedback to the engineers. While Tsunoda has undoubtedly been passed over again, Red Bull's reluctance to promote him could stem from fears that he might be poached by other teams, particularly Honda or Aston Martin, with both looking to capitalize on the Japanese driver's talent starting in 2026. The dynamics at Aston Martin are shifting, with key figures from Red Bull's past, such as Adrian Newey and Honda, now back in the fold. The Silverstone-based squad is clearly positioning itself for the future, and Tsunoda could be an attractive asset in that new era. For Tsunoda, the wait for his chance to shine at a top team continues, but with a burning desire to prove Red Bull wrong. It's likely that his story is far from over. Whether it's with Red Bull or another team, he'll be looking to make his mark, and perhaps get the revenge he feels he deserves. Meanwhile, Lawson now has the weight of expectation on his shoulders as he steps into the massive shoes of being Verstappen's teammate, at a team with no room for error. It's the start of a new chapter, but for both drivers, the stakes have never been higher. Aston Martin, with its growing ambitions, has plenty to look forward to in the coming seasons. And while it's unlikely that Lawrence Stroll would undermine his own son's future, now that the team is enjoying a revival with fresh talent, and a new era of regulations on the horizon, there are forces at play that could potentially shake up the team dynamic. With Fernando Alonso edging closer to retirement, the prospect of Yuki Tsunoda pairing up with Lance Stroll could be a real possibility. But here's the twist. When you're assembling a top-tier engineering squad, you're not just looking for cutting-edge technology. You also need top drivers to get the most out of it. While Tsunoda hasn't yet had the chance to prove himself in a truly top-tier car, his performances in the midfield have consistently outshone those of other drivers like Daniel Ricciardo, Nyck de Vries, and even Liam Lawson. Yet, despite these achievements, Red Bull has continuously overlooked him for a promotion. Why? One factor could be that Red Bull has secured Max Verstappen's future for the long haul, with the Dutchman's contract running through 2028. Verstappen has been clear that he wants to see how the new regulations affect the grid before making any decisions about his future. But with a secure future at Red Bull, the team's attention has understandably shifted to grooming a second driver who can match Verstappen's pace. The challenge is immense, and Christian Horner has acknowledged just how tough this will be for Lawson. The key to Lawson's success, according to Horner, will be pressure management. He will be racing alongside the best driver of his generation, Verstappen, and given that the Red Bull car is notoriously unstable, Lawson will need to focus on his own results, rather than overloading himself with data or comparisons to Verstappen. Horner explained, "I think the key thing is not to put too much pressure on him, and also not to put too much pressure on himself. He's up against the best driver of his generation. I think he just needs to pretty much ignore the data on what's going on with the first car and focus on his engineering team and what it's doing. He just needs to do the best job he can do, and he'll be fine." The road ahead for Lawson is daunting, but Red Bull is confident that, with the right support, he will rise to the occasion. Horner emphasized that the team will aim to provide a car that suits both Verstappen and Lawson, ensuring they both have the tools to compete at the highest level. How well Lawson handles the pressure of being Verstappen's teammate will be crucial, not just for his future, but for Red Bull's success in this new era of F1. In contrast, Tsunoda's future is more uncertain. His path forward might take him to a team like Aston Martin, where he could finally get the chance to prove himself in a competitive environment. But no matter where he ends up, Tsunoda's story is one of patience, resilience, and the desire to show that he belongs among the elite. For now, it's Lawson's turn to shine at Red Bull. But with the grid constantly evolving, Tsunoda could very well be next in line to make a serious impact. What we cannot overlook, however, is the way Tsunoda has been treated by Red Bull throughout his entire time with the team. Despite being part of the Red Bull family for 4 years, he was only given a single opportunity to drive a Red Bull car during the tire test at the end of the 2024 season. For a driver with such potential, that's not just a missed opportunity. It feels almost humiliating. Tsunoda, a driver who has been consistently strong in a midfield car, is now facing a moment where he has nothing but his own willpower to fuel his next move. There's no greater motivation for him than proving to Red Bull that he's not the driver they've written him off as. Yet, Tsunoda himself has admitted that he still needs to work on his temper and anger, which have sometimes disrupted his races and qualifying sessions. But given the circumstances, racing in a car that's far from the fastest, rarely competing for podiums, it's no surprise that his frustrations have boiled over. Nevertheless, Tsunoda has shown time and time again that he's got the talent to shine, and the F1 world has taken notice. Despite driving one of the worst cars on the grid in recent years, he has outperformed the expectations set for him. To be treated like this by Red Bull, a team that had previously promised him so much, is a painful reminder of the harsh realities of F1. The wider motorsport world has seen Tsunoda's resilience and praised him for his skill in extracting the best out of a subpar car. This is why it stings even more to see him repeatedly overlooked by Red Bull, especially when other drivers, like Lawson and De Vries, are given opportunities after far fewer races. Tsunoda has been working closely with Honda, with an eye on securing a seat for 2026 when the new engine and battery regulations come into play. While the likelihood of him replacing Lance Stroll at Aston Martin seems slim, given that the team is committed to its long-term project centered around Alonso and Stroll, there's still a possibility, especially considering that Alonso will be 45 years old when the 2026 season begins. While Alonso is undeniably one of the best drivers on the grid, Aston Martin will have to think about their future, and Tsunoda could be the perfect driver to help lead them into that future. Honda's involvement will be crucial, as the new regulations will place a heavy emphasis on engine and battery power. Aston Martin's ambition is clear. They want to be competitive sooner rather than later, and Tsunoda could play a major role in that redemption project. The fire in Tsunoda's belly is undeniable. He has already hinted that he is ready to destroy Red Bull's Academy drivers if it means getting a seat next to Max Verstappen. Tsunoda is not afraid to use Red Bull's oversight as fuel for his fire. But given Red Bull's recent decision to promote Lawson, it's unlikely we'll see Tsunoda in the senior seat next to Verstappen unless something goes catastrophically wrong for Liam Lawson. A scenario similar to Gasly and Albon swapping in 2019 could happen, but it would require a drastic change in circumstances. The big question now is this: does Lawson have what it takes to be a full-fledged teammate for Verstappen? There are huge expectations for him. Being a teammate of the best driver of his generation is not an easy task, especially when you are driving a car that is notoriously difficult to drive. Lawson will need to focus on his own development and not get consumed by the pressure of being Verstappen's teammate. It's going to be a tough challenge, but if anyone can handle it, it's young Liam Lawson. As for Tsunoda, he's got all the motivation he needs now. With the backing of Honda and a renewed focus on proving his worth, we can expect him to fight harder than ever to secure a top seat. Whether it's with Red Bull, Aston Martin, or another team, Tsunoda will be looking to prove that they've missed a massive opportunity by overlooking him. So, what do you think? Will Lawson rise to the challenge of being Verstappen's teammate, or will he falter under the pressure? And will Tsunoda use his current situation as the fuel he needs to prove Red Bull wrong and earn a top seat in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.